Hi, this is Cheryl Petersen with Healing Science Today, talking about metaphors and white males. Okay, what's a metaphor? It's a figure of speech used to increase our understanding, whether it's understanding ourselves better or our purpose in life. I use metaphors all the time. I'm a gardener, always outside pulling weeds from around the tomato and strawberry plants. And I use gardening as a metaphor. I remind myself to analyze my thoughts and weed out fear-mongering, rumors, and impatience. The problem is, sometimes I can't tell the difference between good and bad thoughts. So I observe how they grow and yank them as soon as possible before bad thoughts take over. Another metaphor. When our children were not quite tweens, we watched the first 3 Star Wars movies. Luke, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Yoda, they became favorites. When our children became teenagers and practiced making more important decisions, and I could tell they were getting pulled by peer pressure, I'd gently say, "The Force is with you. Listen to the Force." They understood the metaphor and made good decisions. I suppose you'd need to be a Star Wars fan to know what I mean, but the Force was the greater power of intelligent good overcoming senseless evil. Now, some metaphors can get old and become, well, a weed. Author of God, Human, Animal, Machine, Megan Ojeblin wrote, "A metaphor becomes dead when the object or practice it refers to is obsolete." Ojeblin also talked about how often we use the metaphor of a computer today to understand ourselves better. But is that super helpful? I walk around, oh, my brain is processing. My software is getting old and outdated. But think about it. Seeing myself as a computer can make me unconsciously feel sometimes like a mindless machine. That's not so helpful. Right now, I want to mention a metaphor that I kind of hear more often in the news. White male. While white males can mean different things to different people, or nothing at all, but I grew up working on the family farm and basically was the only girl working with a bunch of guys. Irrigation, operating equipment, repairing machinery, we did it all together. Although we workers weren't all white, no wait, probably because we weren't all white, I not only learned how to function as the minority, but the image of the white male became an obvious metaphor for me to use. It depicted the character of a privileged, untouchable mentality, always right and masterful. A couple of months ago, and sad to say, I was working at the library, and regarding all of the patrons' behaviors, at one point I thought, geesh, white male. Get this. I can't even tell you the color of skin on this person or their sexual orientation. But the thought, I remember, it jolted me into alert mode. I can weed out the stupid thoughts. I can fight for my right to act on the thoughts that produce good fruits. First off, I recognize the thought that the metaphor no longer applies to only white males. It is only a metaphor, not some universal truth, but a metaphor that can be broken down and destroyed. Secondly, I reasoned that while this mentality of automatically assuming and enforcing superior and inferior complexes is being destroyed, but it will fight back to the death. Thirdly, I remind myself, do not go down with a metaphor, Cheryl. Don't become obsolete with the metaphor. Find a better metaphor to go with. Christ Jesus is a historical figure that appears rather self-convinced and privileged. He said, "I am the bread of life." But Jesus didn't just say it, he lived it. He sacrificed his material life and status quo to prove spirituality is the bread of life. Enlightenment is what we survive on. Jesus didn't destroy white males, but destroyed the metaphor that insinuated superior or inferior complexes. It's the Christ image that enlightens and moves me to keep the mind clean and healthy. There's nothing wrong with being a white male. I married one. It's the mentalities we're dealing with primarily. And I can join the growing evidence. I see it every day, especially at the library. Men, even white males, even women, offering clear evidence of the humility and courage that defeats self-righteousness. It's not always easy, but the people are actively, boldly nurturing togetherness, healthy relationships, wisdom, good manners, sharing with and caring for one another and the community. A healthy masculinity exists. It has little to do with muscles and more to do with attitude, an attitude available to me and everyone. I don't want to prove myself right by proving others wrong. I don't want to make myself look better by making my husband look worse. Any thought that harms someone else to make myself feel better conspires to kill. It leads to mindless, divisive mental assassination. We can do better, using the metaphor of sacred spirit and spirituality. From 21st Century Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, a modern version of Mary Baker Eddy's Science and Health. A world of mindlessness implies a human mortal mind as creator. The scientific divine creation declares immortal mind and the universe created by God. We can expect to receive enlightenment as a result of Christ in action. The Christ Spirit comes now, as of old, preaching the good news to receptive minds, healing the sick, and destroying that which violates our dignity. If our hopes and inclinations are spiritual, they come from enlightenment, not from trained thinking, and they produce the fruits of the Spirit.